and thanks for joining me. I'm out for a ride today on my Norton Commando, and this is a bike that definitely attracts attention. I was just about to get on the bike back then. I'm at Lanercost Priory, which is along Adrian's Wall near Brampton in Cumbria, and I was just about to jump on the bike, and a guy came up to me and started talking to me and telling me how he used to have a Norton back in the early 1960s, and he was looking at the bike and reminiscing. I told him, of course, this is a modern Norton. This is one of the Stuart Gardner era Nortons, but it's certainly a bike that attracts attention. It's very difficult to park this bike up anywhere without having at least one person coming over and admiring it and starting to talk to me. And I have to say, I think I enjoy that, and I think it's a very positive thing, because it's an icebreaker and you get to meet and talk to some very interesting people because of that. And that's really what I want to talk about today. I've decided to call this video, when I actually get round to editing it, I call it Meetings with Remarkable Men. And you might recognise that as a reference to the title of quite a famous book by George Gurdjieff, the Russian philosopher and mystic and spiritual teacher. Now, this is a book that had a huge influence on me when I read it when I was in my early teens. And if you've not read it, then I highly recommend it. However, if you can't be bothered, I'll give you a brief Reader's Digest version now. It's essentially the story of how Gurdjieff, as a young man, set out into the world in pursuit of wisdom, and it tells of the interesting and remarkable people that he met on his travels. So the reason that I've appropriated this title is that my thoughts today are about the people that you meet when you are travelling on a motorcycle, and the benefits that such meetings bring to your life. Now, I've always believed that one of the greatest aspects of motorcycling, and particularly motorcycle touring, is meeting new and interesting people. Of course, we all go on motorcycle tours to see interesting new places, but to fully engage with those places, you need to engage with the people there, because the people are the architects of the local culture. They are the architects of the local food, and indeed, obviously, the local architecture. Now, I'm fortunate to have learnt this lesson very early in life. When I was only 16 years old, I had a little motorcycle which I used to go off on for weekends, and that's staying in youth hostels in the UK. And in these youth hostels, I met a lot of interesting people, particularly overseas students at the time, lots of young people from countries all over the world travelling cheaply around the UK. And so I used to spend my evenings sat in these hostel common rooms chatting with people from all over the world. And one of the things that struck me when meeting all of these travellers from overseas was the wonderful opportunity to learn about other cultures and to learn to see the world through the eyes of these people from different cultures with different life experiences. And when I was 18 years old, I did my first big overseas motorcycle tour. I travelled with a friend from the UK down through Europe to Italy, and so we caught the ferry from England over to France, and then we rode through Belgium, Holland, Germany, into Switzerland, over the Alps and into Italy, and then we travelled back up through France. And this journey had a huge impact on me at that young age of only 18. For one thing, it kindled a lifelong love for motorcycle touring, and two things in particular stand out in my memory from that trip in terms of the impact on me, and I want to share those with you. The first was the range of different languages in the countries that we passed through in even a relatively short distance. So within the course of just the first few days of the trip, we met people speaking French, Dutch, Flemish, German and Italian, and it impressed upon me the importance of learning other languages so you can reach out and communicate with people as you travel. And it's certainly been my experience since then that if you make an effort to speak the language of the country you're visiting, even if it's a very poor effort, which most of mine are, then people will meet you halfway. Even if you can only speak a few basic words such as hello, please, thank you, people appreciate that, and they appreciate that you've made that effort. The second impact of that trip on me was the range of different cultures that I encountered, even just within Europe. So different styles of housing, different dress sense and clothes, different food, different music, different customs and rituals, and different lifestyles. And so exposure to these different ways of living, for me, is one of the greatest benefits of travelling, as it makes you look at your own life and the society that you live in around you and see things that you had previously taken for granted in a new light. I've certainly found that travelling by motorcycle has improved my social skills, particularly when travelling solo. I'm naturally not very gregarious, and I tend to keep myself to myself. And that's not a good way to travel. You can get very lonely if you do that. So it is better to interact with other people, and that's something which, well, it's been quite a learning process for me, but I hope I'm much better at it these days. But I kind of learnt lessons with travelling with other people who were far more gregarious than me, and seeing how easily they just interacted with strangers, and I've tried to pick up on that. But certainly I've found when travelling solo, it's much easier to engage with and interact with strangers, simply because I think if you're on your own, people feel that it's easier to approach you and talk to you. I've done a lot of motorcycle touring as a tour guide, leading groups, and I find that if you're travelling with a larger group, you tend to be quite insular, and you almost create a bubble around yourselves, around the group, which makes it more difficult for strangers to break through and engage with you. Whereas if you're just on your own, it's easy for somebody to walk up to you and just start talking to you. Also, I found, particularly when travelling in the USA, I found that being British helps enormously in terms of breaking the ice. Many Americans are fascinated by the British accent, or at least that's what I've found, and they love listening to British accents. So, as soon as you start talking and they hear you're British, people are interested, and I found Americans in particular very curious. They want to know where you're from, they want to know where you're going on the bike, etc. And it's very easy then to engage in a conversation with them. In fact, I found no matter where I've travelled in the world, all over the world, most people are naturally curious and interested, even if in some cultures they're quite shy. They want to know where you're from, they want to know where you're going, and they want to know how far you're travelling. Those are the most common questions that I get. And I found that if you respond in a friendly way, then you can very quickly build a rapport with people, and you might never know where that might lead. I have in the past been invited to people's houses for a meal. I've been invited to stay overnight with total strangers that I just met, and on more than one occasion I've been invited to stay for several days and been entertained and taken out by people who were complete strangers until I just met them on the road. I'm sure that if you're listening to this and you are also a motorcycle traveller, if you enjoy touring, then you will have had similar experiences. I'm sure that it's something we all go through, and I simply wanted to point out that, well, for me, it's one of the most wonderful aspects of motorcycle touring. And of course, due to the wonders of modern social media, in particular Facebook, it's now also much easier to keep in touch with people that you've met on your travels. So I'm now in the very privileged situation of having Facebook friends all over the world based on encounters that I've had during my motorcycle travels. And indeed, I have had meetings with some most remarkable men and women, and I feel very privileged to have done so. So thanks for riding along with me. I hope you've enjoyed this. Ride safe, and hopefully I'll see you again soon. Bye.